Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 183, September 4th, 2017, Monday, Labor Day. Hey, it's great. We're all off today, hopefully. And hopefully you're having good weather wherever you are. Get out there and grill some burgers and some dogs or whatever you're going to do today. I kind of did that yesterday, but just enjoying a Monday off and catching up on a few things here. Stop by and visit Mom. And just taking it easy today. Enjoying this 4-day work week. Okay, as promised, Jesse Jackson. You know, I wasn't going to do a video on Jesse Jackson, but I was doing a video, I think, 2 days ago, and I mentioned that Jesse Jackson was giving a speech. And in that speech, he said that God would not allow Trump into heaven. And so I half-jokingly suggested that if I heard another peep out of Jesse, that I would make a video and expose his criminal character and present some very good reasons why he might not be very welcome in heaven. And I was kind of half joking, but Fern Sincheisen, a subscriber, and also the lovely and talented Maura suggested they would love to learn more about Jesse Jackson. So I thought, what the heck? It's kind of a slow news day. Want to go ahead and take care of that. So, I have a special presentation for you today. Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson. So, a lot of people basically have this image of Jesse Jackson. They say, well, he was, of course, he was one of a follower of Martin Luther King. He's a civil rights leader. He's a minister. All these sorts of things. He's out there trying to help blacks. He's out there doing all these wonderful things. He's a black leader. And then a lot of people wonder maybe how Jesse makes his money. Well, is it because he's a great religious leader and lots of people donate to him because he's out there spreading the good word? Is it because of all the hardcore charity work that he does, where he is generously, gratuitously rewarded for his efforts and working in the black community for charities and all these things? This is the public image that most people have of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. But the truth of the matter is, none of these things are true. They're a hoax. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you who the Reverend Jesse Jackson really is. Jesse Jackson is a poverty pimp. A poverty pimp. Let's go through some of the history. First of all, it is very well known in the United States of America, in corporate America, that in order to get anything done, if you're the head of a large corporation, you gotta pay tribute to Jesse. You gotta pay off Jesse. If you don't pay off Jesse, you'll have some problems. Because Jesse knows how to shake down corporate CEOs. That's the business he's in. That's how he makes all his money. Now, you know, a lot of these big corporations, you think, well, they're big, powerful corporations. They have attorneys. They can fight all this. But you will see, as I lay this out, that Jesse Jackson understands exactly how to deal with these people. And it's just become easier, I think, for a lot of these big corporations to pay Jesse Jackson off than to fight him. And he's figured this out. And this is how Jesse Jackson became a multi-millionaire. He's a shakedown artist. Basically, Jesse Jackson is an extortionist who uses his influence as a civil rights leader, as a phony civil rights leader, to essentially blackmail wealthy corporations with absurd discrimination threats. Like I say, it's very well known that you got two choices as a CEO of a major corporation in America. You can either pay off Jesse, or he can file lawsuits against you and claim that you're a racist and try to do harm to your company. It's cheaper to pay him off. He figured this out a long time ago. Let's go through some examples that prove what I'm telling you is correct. And this information has been well documented in various books. In fact, Judicial Watch did a massive investigation of Jesse Jackson, and they ended up in a court case with Jesse Jackson, and he was even admitted, he was even forced to admit under oath in these court hearings exactly the things that Judicial Watch pointed out in their investigation, some of which are the following. Now, Jesse Jackson, just so you know, he runs this thing called the Rainbow Coalition Push. And so this is the organization he uses to shake down corporate CEOs. You either donate to the Rainbow Coalition Push, or Jesse launches lawsuits on you and boycotts. Example number 1. Jesse Jackson lobbied the FCC to prevent media companies seeking government approval to merge until they donate money to the Rainbow Coalition. Yes, that's right. When these big mergers happen, they involve tens of billions of dollars. Jesse Jackson has figured out that he can file all sorts of legal briefs against these mergers, preventing these mergers from happening, which is costing these CEOs and these big corporations tens of millions and even billions of dollars. So he can drag these things out and keep these mergers from being able to be completed. And in this particular case that we're talking about here that was brought up by Judicial Watch, these were big media corporations attempting a merge. And so Jesse Jackson went to work. He started filing his legal briefs with the FCC. He continued to do so for about 2 or 3 years, till finally the CEOs, the corporations involved in the merger, realized what was holding everything up. It was Jesse. And they realized, as they were advised, pay him off. Pay him what he wants. Millions and millions of dollars. And he'll go away, and the merger will go through. And that is exactly what happened. This is just one of many techniques that the Reverend uses to shake down corporations. Then Jackson publicly chastised Toyota for running an ad which Jackson deemed was racist. Even after Toyota pulled the ad, Jackson threatened a boycott against Toyota to force the company to launch a $7.8 billion diversity program. Then Jackson installed his friend J.L. Armstrong in a management position at Toyota to determine which organizations would receive $700 million in contracts awarded by Toyota. And of course, what Jesse Jackson does when he does these types of operations and shakedowns is he goes to these companies who are going to be the benefactors and the recipients of that money, and he gets them to cut him in to get their name put on the list. You pay Jesse, you get a piece of the action. You don't pay Jesse, no action for you. Just another one of the many shakedown tactics which Jackson was admitted under oath in a court of law to admit to. Jackson's current target, what he's working on right now, is a big lawsuit against British Petroleum, one of the largest, if not the largest. I guess it's the second largest behind Exxon. In his latest high-dollar shakedown, BP is the target. Jackson has currently organized a boycott demanding greater minority involvement in their business practices. How much do you think the Reverend will shake down BP for in this particular arrangement? It will be in tens of millions of dollars. You can bet on that. Because what's happening here is that, as I've just stated, he's demanding greater minority involvement in these business practices. So what BP will be forced to do so that they can move forward and avoid the boycott and get Jackson off their ass, what they're going to have to do is follow through and start giving more contracts to minority businesses. These businesses, of course, will be on Jesse's list of businesses that he promised would get a piece of this pie, at which point he'll get a fee for getting your name on that list. Just another one of the many shakedown tactics by the so-called Reverend Jackson. We'll get to that in just a moment. Let's talk about, now this is just a couple of examples. He's been doing this for decades. He has shaken down hundreds of major corporations for hundreds of millions of dollars. In a speech, let's talk about some of the gaffes. In a speech in 1979, Jackson referred to a Jewish man in New York and said, quote, "That's all Jaime wants to talk about is Israel. Every time you go to Jaime Town, that's all they want to talk about." It's a very well-known fact that Jesse Jackson is an anti-Semite. He hates Jews, especially Jews in New York, who don't play the game with Jesse because they too themselves are a protected minority. Hard to shake down the Jews for Jesse. That's why he hates them. He can't shake them down the way he can the Goy. So the Jews are protected from Jesse. They don't play his game, and that frustrates him greatly. And he's referred to Jews as Jaimes and referred to New York as Jaime Town on many occasions. Definitely a hardcore anti-Semite, and it has nothing to do really with his views of Israel or anything else. It just has to do with the fact that he's never had any success being able to shake down those New York Jewish folks who don't play the game. Back in the 1980s, Muammar Gaddafi, leader of Libya, was being investigated in the bombing of the plane that was taken down by a bomb in Lockerbie, Scotland, in I believe 86 or 87. During the investigation, they found that Jesse Jackson and some members of his cadre had many meetings with Gaddafi, had a relationship with Gaddafi, had plans with Gaddafi. He was investigated as possibly being part of maybe this bombing that took place that brought down that plane in Lockerbie, Scotland. Unfortunately, we never got to the truth about that because members of Congress, particularly white members of Congress, were too afraid to go after Jesse, knowing good and well he would drop the race card. This is why Jesse never gets held accountable for his crimes. But we do know that he was involved with Muammar Gaddafi at about the time that they were investigating the bombing of the plane in Lockerbie, Scotland. And of course, Gaddafi eventually admitted to being involved in that, and he did pay reparations to the families of those victims on that plane that was brought down with a bomb over Lockerbie, Scotland. Next, Operation Breadbasket. Operation Breadbasket was just one of many scams that Jesse Jackson runs. He has many spin-off organizations that he sets up, and with people who act almost like his disciples, who he teaches his shakedown methods to. Now, he got involved with the group that set up this charity, which they called Operation Breadbasket, during which time the treasurer, an honest man of this charity, discovered that Jesse had his fingers in the till. He investigated this until he had conclusive evidence, and once he did, he faced down Jesse Jackson at a public meeting, right there to his face, told Jesse and everyone in the audience that he had hardcore proof that Jesse had his hand in the till. This, of course, led to Jesse Jackson being forced to resign from the charity. Not sure exactly how much money he stole from this charity before he was able to step down. But this is just one of the many things that Jesse Jackson will do, is set up phony charities and then get his hand in the till. Reminds you a bit of the Clintons. He's a lot like Bill Clinton, actually. He is a liar. He is a compulsive liar. And people who know him say all he does is lie, much like Bill Clinton. And he's very good at it, maybe better at it than Clinton. Jesse has a half-brother. His name is Noah. When Noah graduated from college, he was going to go out and get into the business world, but Jesse lured him in and said, "No, you need to go work with me. I'll make you fabulously wealthy, and we'll go out and play the race card and shake people down. I'll show you how it's done." So he got his young brother, half-brother Noah, involved in his criminal activities, and after about 9 years of being a part of Jesse's organization, his half-brother, having been introduced to a bunch of thugs and gangs that Jesse uses as his muscle, His brother Noah got himself caught up in a murder-for-hire scheme, where he was tried and convicted and is still in jail to this day. Murder for hire. You can bet Jesse was a part of that, but he didn't face any consequences, but his half-brother did. He's still in jail. On Fox News, during an interview, thinking he was off mic, Jesse thought the mic was off. He said the following about Obama's faith-based initiative. Quote, talking to black people on this faith-based, I want to cut his nuts off. Barack, he's talking down to black people. Unquote. That clip is available on YouTube. You can watch it. Yes, Jesse Jackson wanting to cut Barack's nuts off. Now, you're probably wondering why Barack and Jesse Jackson are not buddies. Well, they are competitors for shakedown money in Chicago. They both are Chicago guys. They both are part of the Chicago Mafia, but they operate in a different way with a different group of players, but they're competing to steal the same money. Barack Obama usually distanced himself from Jesse Jackson and his Rainbow Coalition. Once he was elected and became president, Jesse Jackson didn't get all those meetings at the White House. He didn't get all those invitations to come to the White House. Barack Obama basically ignored Jesse Jackson and kept him at bay. When Clinton was in office, Jesse Jackson had open invitation to the White House anytime he wanted, along with his good buddy, Al Not Too Sharpton, and others. This was Clinton playing to the black community. He's actually a hardcore racist, as we all know. A follower of KKK Bird and Mr. Fulbright. Jesse knows this, of course, and always did know this about Bill Clinton, but this gave Jesse access and greater ability to conduct shakedowns. Jesse Jackson was sued by Karen Stanford, the mother of Jesse Jackson's love child. The two had a 12-year-old daughter at the time of the lawsuit. The deadbeat dad, Jesse Jackson, owed $12,000 in back child support. But don't worry, the child is fine. Both mother and daughter are doing fine, benefiting from those generous California welfare programs. That's right, the multi-millionaire Jesse Jackson's love child is being supported by the taxpayers of California. At least they were at the time of this lawsuit. Now, he was forced to pay alimony, and I think he pays $3,000 a month in alimony now. Of course, now that's ended because this was years ago, and this child would now be, of course, over 21, I'm sure, and therefore he's not having to fork out the $3,000 a month. But $3,000 a month to Jesse Jackson, he shakes down multiple corporations for millions and millions of dollars. But the fact that it took a court injunction to get him to pay for his daughter just shows you what type of man that Jesse really is. Jesse has had many extramarital affairs. He gets away with most of them, but in 2010 he got caught and was forced to admit on another extramarital affair. In 2012, Jackson's personal travel assistant filed a lawsuit against Jackson, claiming the Reverend subjected him to humiliating tasks because he was homosexual, such as escorting women to Jackson's hotel room and then being ordered to clean up after Jackson had sexual intercourse with them. He also says one of Jackson's regular mistresses was Fox contributor Tamara Holder. We've all seen her. She's on Sean Hannity all the time, arguing from the left. She's a big fan of Jesse, and apparently one of his mistresses. Jesse Jackson Jr., that's right, Jesse had a son, Jesse Jackson Jr. Many of you may recall he was a former congressman. Of course, he's doing hard time now in the penitentiary because of misuse of campaign funds. Also, he had issues with drugs, booze, and women. A chip off the old block. That's right, he was taking all those campaign contributions and illegally using the money to procure women, drugs, and booze. Chip off the old block. Not as smart as his daddy, obviously, because he didn't get away with it. Jesse Jackson is still in jail. Jesse Jackson Jr. Now, even blacks and many Democrats are on to Jesse's games. If you remember, back during the Ferguson riots, Jesse and his buddy Not-So-Al Sharpton were booed off stage while trying to take advantage of a situation there in Ferguson. As you know, anytime there's any type of racial upheaval, many times created by Jackson, he and his old buddy Al Not-So-Sharpton show up to try to get a little camera time, a little face time, so that they can work another scam to shake down some more whites and white liberals, limousine liberals, who do not want to be on the other end of Jackson's ire. If you're a limousine liberal, get out your checkbook. Here comes Jesse. As soon as they see him coming, they reach for the checkbook because they know what's going on. Write that check or you will be on Jesse's list. Yes, that's right. That's how he operates. He's a shakedown artist, a poverty pimp. Jesse Jackson, while doing a television interview, once said that he feels relieved when he's walking down the street and he hears those footsteps behind him and he turns around and realizes it's a white man. Makes him feel relieved. He's so happy it's not a black man. He's worried about getting mugged. That went over really well with the black community, but he doesn't care because he doesn't care about the black community. He lives in an upscale, upper middle class white neighborhood in Chicago. He was born and raised in an upper class, or at least middle class, Chicago suburban neighborhood. Jesse Jackson's never lived in poverty. Doesn't know what poverty is. Never. Let's go back in time and visit one of Jesse's most famous lies. In 1959, Jesse attended the seminary in Chicago, Illinois. He lasted 1 year before flunking out. One story he likes to tell about how he was abused by racism is that he says while he was there, he was attempting to try out for the quarterback position at the college, but that the coach told him, no, you can't be a quarterback on the team, Jesse. You're black. We don't have blacks as quarterbacks. This is a story he likes to tell, but the fact of the matter is, when researchers went back and looked, they found that in that year, 1959, University of Illinois, the seminary, had a black quarterback, and his name wasn't Jesse. Wasn't Jesse Jackson at all. It was another black quarterback. Jesse couldn't be the quarterback there because he flunked out of the seminary after less than 1 year. He couldn't be the quarterback because he couldn't, apparently, meet the academic standards. That's right. Jesse Jackson flunked out of the seminary after 1 year. And this title of Reverend, let's deal with that. The fact that he did not complete his course at the seminary means he did not become a ordained minister. He has no minister's license. He has never gone or completed any program to become a minister. He does not have a church. He has no preacher's license. He was given a gratuitous ceremonial designation as a reverend in a small community church, and that's as close as he ever came to being a reverend. He is not a reverend. He's not a licensed minister. He's never completed anything at the seminary, nor has he ever even completed college. The only college he attended was his attempts in 1959 at the Chicago, Illinois Seminary, where he flunked out after 1 year. He's never graduated from college. He's not a reverend. He's not a minister. He is a shakedown artist, and he is a poverty pimp. He claims to have a degree, but his degree is actually an honorary degree. And that honorary degree came from where? That very same Chicago seminary where he flunked out. And how did he get that degree? Well, he got that degree when his son Jesse Jackson Jr., before becoming a politician, sat on the board at that particular school, and he made a motion for his dad to get the honorary degree. It was voted on, and of course all the white limousine liberals, terrified of voting against it, supported it, and that's how he got his honorary degree. Do you think that God will be happy to allow Jesse into heaven? This is the question. The Gaddafi connection, multiple extramarital affairs, illegitimate children being paid for by the taxpayer, shaking down one corporation after another, doing everything he can to keep poor blacks in the inner cities on the government plantation, using false charities to steal money from them. He reminds me a little bit of OJ. He doesn't hang out in the black community. He only hangs out with shakedown artists like Al Not So Sharpton and others. There is a conspiracy theory that I'll comment on very briefly that Jesse Jackson may have even been involved in the murder of Martin Luther King because he wanted to get rid of King and take his position, and because King was aware that Jesse Jackson was a fraud and that he may want to expel him from the group. Now, I do not believe that particular conspiracy theory, not because I don't believe that Jesse Jackson had it in him. I just don't believe the theory of this particular theory that he was responsible for the death of Martin Luther King. However, I do believe that there's a FBI deep state connection to the assassination of Martin Luther King. I don't think Jesse was involved in it, but who knows? He very well could be. You can certainly watch videos and you can look at the evidence and weigh it for yourself. I am not convinced that that's true. I wouldn't put it past him. I'm just not so convinced it was true. But the fact is, Jesse Jackson is such a habitual offender, the poverty pimp, the fake reverend. He's no more reverend than the rotten Reverend Clinton. Well, at least until she gets her mail order preacher's license in the mail, then she will actually be probably more of a preacher than he is. And of course, they play on the same team. They're both shakedown artists. Jesse Jackson has figured out that he can drop the race card, and he can drop it on mega corporations. He can keep mergers from happening. He can launch boycotts. He can shake down corporate CEOs for millions and millions of dollars. Jesse Jackson does not want to see the black community do better. He doesn't want to see Trump do anything good in the black community because Jesse Jackson counts on these people as victims so that he can continue to go out and do his shakedowns. This is the only thing Jesse Jackson has of an interest in the black community. Jesse Jackson is, as I said, a fraud, a fake, and a poverty pimp, a shakedown artist, and a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He's a very, very bad man, a very nasty man. And the comment that he made was disturbing. He is disturbing. You can certainly learn more about Jesse by a little Google search of your own, but particularly look at that Judicial Watch lawsuit that was brought against him, where he was forced to sit there in court under oath and admit the various shakedowns that he participates in. He doesn't view them as shakedowns, but they're shakedowns. Plain and simple. He's not a very good man. He's certainly not a minister. He's not a man of God. Jesse Jackson is only interested in looking out for Jesse Jackson, the poverty pimp. Well, that is Jesse Jackson for your entertainment and viewing pleasure. Now that you know, if you didn't know before, what he's all about, and I've just scratched the surface, I could go on for hours. Again, you can go to Judicial Watch, type in Jesse Jackson on their search box, and you'll find example after example after example of the types of corporate shakedowns he's involved in. You can go look at YouTube videos and find gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. I only scratched the surface here today, but I think you get the idea. Jesse Jackson, Poverty Pimp. TowerGate, Day 183, September 4th, 2017. I'll be back with you tomorrow on a follow-up to a very important story, and I'm sure you'll enjoy that very much. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back with you again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.